Good morning, children. Unit 2 of your prose, that is Mauritius, written by R.K. Lakshman. I'll read out the chapter first. The world atlas I have with me has many little dots and specks which have really nothing to do with the world of geography. It is an old one, and time, the weather, and generations of cockroaches have put them there. So it was with some difficulty that I was able to locate Mauritius in the vastness of the Indian Ocean. It is a tiny speck of an island situated below the equator on the 20th parallel, some 4,500 kilometers southwest of Bombay. Our aircraft is bearing us towards it. Through the occasional gloss in the clouds, I glimpse the ocean spread like a bluish grey steel sheet. There are acres and acres of cloud below me, having all sorts of funny shapes in an odd abstract way. Curiously, they resemble figures in the ancient legends of China, Rome, Greece, India, and what have you. Let's go to the next page now. I cannot help drawing a comparison, albeit ridiculous and rather far fetched, between my vague observations at 10,000 meters watching the clouds and what I learn of Mauritius later. This tiny island has an astonishingly similar variety, strange juxtapositions, incongruities, odd mixture of race and language. Here, Africans and Chinese, Biharis and Dutch, Persians and Tamils, Arabs, French, and English all rub shoulders merrily with one another and emerge with a peculiar sense of oneness. A Tamil, for instance, bears a deceptively South Indian face and a name to go with it to boot. Radha Krishna Govindan is indeed from Madras. I speak to him in Tamil. He surprises me by responding in a frightfully mangled English with a heavy French accent. Mr. Govindan has no knowledge of Tamil and his tongue has ceased curling to produce Tamil sounds centuries ago. Like others of his fellow men, his ancestors were brought to the islands as slaves or later as indentured laborers to work in sugarcane fields and factories or to cut timber in the jungle and haul it to the boats. Their roots in their original homelands withered and disappeared with the passage of time. All of them together happily came to share in the triumphs and defeats of whoever happened to be their masters among the buccaneering trinity of those days, the Dutch, the French, and the English, who constantly waged battle for the possession of the island, for its spices and sugar, or just for the strategic position on the maritime route to the east, conveniently placed as it was for piratical purposes. However, the Battle of 1810 ended all that in favor of the English. The French surrendered and handed over the island after extracting a favor from the conquerors that the French influence on the island be left intact. The English kept their word to the last day of their rule, which ended in 1968. And so, we still have very musical but unpronounceable names like Trossach's Beaches, Biu Basin, Quarter Bones, Cure Pipe, Rossbell, and so on. The people are extremely relaxed and warm towards strangers. In the streets, in the bazaar, in restaurants, it is common to be greeted and smiled at as if you were a long lost friend. Coming from Bombay, with my precast grim expression of a city dweller, I react awkwardly at first to such spontaneity and feel ashamed that I am not even able to produce a matching smile. Now, next page, that is page number 24. The same atmosphere of friendliness prevails even in Port Louis, the seat of government. The cabinet ministers and others in high positions Do not act as if they were born to the grace. They are just like ordinary people one bumps into in an airport lounge or in a hotel lobby. Children, just see the difference here. The difference between Mauritius and India. See, in Mauritius, the author says all the cabinet ministers and other people in high positions, they're just like ordinary people. Whereas what's happening in our country today, you know very well. I hope you know very well. If you don't know, ask your parents, they will tell you. They're unassuming. Unassuming means simple. Accessible. Accessible means people who can easily be approached. Communicative. Communicative means people who are good in communication. And above all, go about without a protective shield of hangers on and security men to repel casual approaches. See, they don't have a security there in Mauritius, the ministers and other people. They just roam around like common people. I am shown a modest looking flat in a busy street lined with shops and crawling traffic. It is the residence of the Prime Minister of Mauritius. Port Louis brings to my mind Joseph Conrad and Magum. This little port town seems as if it were built at the suggestion of these writers to suit their novels and short stories. Merchant ships, trawlers, dinghies stand anchored in the harbor with cobwebs of ropes and festoons in seamen's caps lounge on oil drums and packing cases or lean against bleak warehouse walls smoking pipes. Sugarcane fields like a carpet of green cover the island on all sides as far as the eye can see, up to the foot of the distant blue mountains that ring the island, a volcanic happening of geological ages. These mountains have the traditional monotonous pyramidal shapes. Their outlines are freakish and whimsical with unexpected sweeps and perpendicular drops and pinpointed peaks, precariously doing a balancing act with boulders as big as a skyscraper. There is no railway in Mauritius. Well maintained trunk and arterial roads connect various villages and towns, cutting through the ubiquitous sugarcane fields. Although the whole country is only 64 kilometers by 50 kilometers in size, driving around the island for sightseeing makes me feel curiously that I'm in a place as sprawling as India. But the excellent weather and breathtaking landscapes all around make up for many hours spent just sitting inside a car. It is very common for people to drive up and down an average 70 kilometers to a cocktail party or dinner with friends. I note the trees here are so unlike the gigantic specimens I have seen in Andaman Islands. Gigantic means something which is very huge. Disappointingly enough, they are short and gnarled even in the interior of jungles, looking just like abnormally overgrown bonsai. These jungles have no tigers or lions or elephants or any kind of wildlife. There are not even poisonous snakes or insects. The bat was the only mammal before man arrived. Let's go to the next page. Before man arrived on the island with the monkey and the deer centuries ago. Unfortunately, the birds are dwindling in number and variety. The dodo, a bird which could not fly and which certainly had no claims to beauty and elegance, was a native of this island and mercifully is extinct now. The author here speaks about a bird called dodo, a bird which could not fly and which was not exactly beautiful or good looking. It was a native of Mauritius Islands, but now that bird does not exist anymore. And so are the giant tortoises of the Aldabra variety, of which a few specimens have been brought and kept in an enclosure in the botanical gardens at Pamplemouses. The people of Mauritius shudder to think of the night the king cyclone struck them. On February 6, 1975, a 320-kilometer broad howling wind moved in at some 255 kilometers per hour. The eye of the cyclone alone, I am told, was 48 kilometers wide, and it churned the country for 2 days, relentlessly flattening everything that stood, smashing windows and doors, tearing up rooftops, uprooting trees, and bringing them down on buildings. Now, of course, the island has recovered from the devastation, but the valley of the dead trees gives me a fair idea of the enormous violence with which the cyclone had struck these people, who are actually quite used to facing these storms as they are an annual event in Mauritius. See, what the writer is telling here is storms occur once in a year in Mauritius. But the big ones come only once in 15 years. The sad part of it is, by the time the next one is due, the memory of the previous disaster fades or nearly comes to be believed as a myth. Myth is something, which has not happened actually. So again, trees are planted in congested areas, tall buildings come up, plate glass picture windows are fixed, and rooftops are put up with an eye on elegance. But sure enough, at the king cyclone appears promptly on the horizon to surprise the people of Mauritius. A coral reef runs all around the island parallel to the shoreline, keeping the hysterical waves away at a safe distance from the beaches. The calm, turquoise blue lagoons of Mauritius thus have become world famous. They are still and calm like lotus ponds and are a delight to those who like water sports such as scuba diving, swimming, surf riding, speedboat racing, and yachting. In some places, the sea is so shallow there is even horse riding. My wife and I, not being aquatic, we watch with amusement the avidity of the tourists from all parts of the world, extracting every bit of the fun that the magnificent beach could yield. We step into a glass bottomed boat carefully without getting our feet wet and go on a cruise to observe submerged coral reefs. Now we will move to the next page and marine life. I see seashells on yellow sands. To start with, little undefinable creatures, stray bits of seaweed float by. Alarmed crabs scurry for shelter. Then comes the skeleton like formation of coral. The sea deepens, pale green bushes, slimy white blobs, big as pumpkins, lobsters, slithering snaky forms. As the boat moves further into the sea, the scene below turns eerie. Among the jagged rocks, the coral jungle becomes dense and huge and is draped with a brownish moss. I see shapeless, ugly creatures crawling in the dark depths of the sea covers. I feel unblinking eyes are watching us from below the giant mushroom like growth all over. Headless animals pretending to be plants, stuck in one place away from side to side in a ghostly manner. A cold shiver runs down my spine. All of a sudden, standing out against the darkness, a school of fish, colored bright lemon yellow with black bars all along their sides, pass majestically by, cheering up the whole world of overwhelming blue. Children, one thing I want you to know here, a school of fish. You all are studying in a school, our school. So, this is not the only instance where the word school is used. If you had to describe a group of fish, even then the word school is used. We say a school of fish. Further on, I see the coral branches tipped with a peculiar blue light like hundreds of candles dying out. Plenty of colors coming now: violet, yellow, pink, green, postbox red. Fishes with hideous spikes all over their body, fishes with long tails, fishes with battered faces, all of them with the damned look of condemned souls, crisscross our path with twilight against a nightmarish landscape. Fastening my seatbelt, preparing for my return flight, I vaguely think of the future of Mauritius. Will it be able to preserve its pristine charm? It has no population problem now, with its 8,50,000 people evenly spread over. There is hardly any unemployment question yet. People seem to live fairly well at all levels. The government is aware of all these advantages, but seems to feel a certain nervousness about an economy so dependent basically on a single commodity, sugar. So it is eager to have foreign entrepreneurs start their industries here. With industrial growth, the living space will shrink, cars and trucks will increase, their roads will have to be widened to take the load, the price of land will go up, and flats will appear. Cost of living, pollution, unemployment, slums, taxation, controls. Oh, all these things, all these thoughts come to me from force of habit. An enlightened people can, next page, of course, guide themselves away from all such evils and still preserve this paradise on earth. I turn hopefully to the window for clouds to entertain me, but the sun has set, it is dark outside, and I shall be in India in a few hours. This ends this chapter, children. It's about the island of Mauritius, and the writer is Mr. R.K. Lakshman, a very well-known cartoonist of India, who is from our Mysore actually. His brother, Mr. R.K. Narayan, was also a very famous writer who has written the highly popular Malgudi Days, stories of Malgudi, which was made into a TV serial as well. So Mr. R.K. Lakshman writes about Mauritius. He describes the people there. He describes the trees and other natural things in Mauritius. He describes what exactly happened in Mauritius when the Dutch, the French, and the English had possessed the island. He describes the streets and the restaurants. He says the people are very friendly, and he says the ministers and other high position people are very comfortable. They don't have any security. They just move around like common people. And he was shown a very modest looking, very ordinary looking flat, and he was told that it is the residence of the Prime Minister of Mauritius. There is no railway service in Mauritius, only the road service. And it's a very small island, just 64 kilometers into 50 kilometers in size. And Mr. Lakshman says the trees in Mauritius are very small. They don't look gigantic like the trees in Andaman Islands. The forests of Mauritius don't have any tigers or lions or elephants or snakes. The dodo, a bird which could not fly, a flightless bird, belonged to Mauritius but does not exist anymore. Next, Mr. Lakshman talks about the cyclone on February 6, 1975, and the entire country of Mauritius suffered because windows and doors were destroyed, rooftops were destroyed, trees were uprooted, and trees came down on buildings. So naturally the buildings were also damaged. Actually, Mr. Lakshman says storms happen annually in Mauritius. Every year there is one storm. But the big ones, the big cyclones come once in 15 years. So once the cyclone is over, they forget the cyclone, they start planting trees, they start constructing buildings, everything happens. But again after 15 years, another cyclone comes and everything gets damaged. Very unfortunate. Mr. Lakshman and his wife, they step into a boat and they go for a cruise on the sea. He sees a variety of sights in the seas, animals and fishes and all those things. Then all of a sudden, a school of fish, colorful, meet his eyesight. He feels very happy. He enjoys this. Then he starts worrying about Mauritius. Everything is okay, there is no unemployment in Mauritius. But still, the economy of Mauritius is dependent only on one product, that is sugar. So they want foreign people to come and start their industries in Mauritius. So with industrial growth, the living space will shrink, he says. So industries will come, cars and trucks will increase, roads will have to be widened, the price of land will go up, flats will appear, cost of living, pollution, unemployment, slums, taxation, everything will start happening here, as it has happened in our country now. Of course, if the people are enlightened, if the people are wise, they can still preserve their country. Thus saying, Mr. Lakshman concludes this particular chapter. It's a beautiful chapter. I enjoyed reading it. I'm sure even you people enjoyed this. Now, coming to the notes for this chapter as well as the other chapters, I'll be sharing it with you in the next couple of days, maybe by Thursday. I want all of you to update your notes and submit by next week without fail. Am I clear, children? Okay, thank you so much. I'll meet you again with the next chapter. Have a nice day, and in advance, I wish you all a very happy Deepavali.